everyone, today I'm going to talk about my first quarter reading plans for 2025. I'm going to lay out 20 books for you that I may or may not read in that time. I'm going to give you 10 books that I'm pretty sure are definites, 5 more books that are in the probably category, and then just 5 more books after that that I might read. So let's get started with the 10 books that I'm very, very confident that I will be reading the first quarter of 2025, starting with the first 3 or 2.5 books of Memory, Sorrow, and Thorn by Tad Williams. This is a read-along that's going on the channel and on the Fireside Discord. We are reading The Dragonbone Chair in January, Stone of Farewell in February, and then the monster book that is To Green Angel Tower is going to be split over March and April. So if you have the 2-volume version, like I will have as soon as my broken binding copy arrives, we'll read the first half of the volume in March and the second half in April. I'm really excited to read this series. I'm excited to put together some live streams at the end of each month and talk about these books with some other fellow readers, and I'm really excited about the conversations we're going to have on the Fireside Discord. So I'm starting the year January 1st with Dragonbone Chair. I always like to start my year with something I think I'll love, and I really think I'm going to love this classic fantasy / modern fantasy series that kind of has one foot in each category of the fantasy genre, and I'm really looking forward to it, and I can't wait to have the conversations with a lot of you that I know are reading along as well. My next 3 definites in the definite category are the next 3 reads that I will have in the Sun Eater universe. I started these in October. I'm reading something every month. There are novels, there are novellas, there are short story collections, and in the first quarter I'm going to get one of each. So in January, I'll be reading Queen Amid Ashes, which is a novella set in the Sun Eater universe. In February, I will be reading Tales from the Sun Eater Volume 1, which is a short story collection. And then I'll be reading Demon in White in March. And I'm really excited for Demon in White because it seems a lot of people list that as their favorite of all of the Sun Eater novels. It is the 3rd novel. I can't wait to read it. It's turning out to be a big March. I already mentioned that the first half of To Green Angel Tower will be read in March. I'm going to put that at the beginning of the month. And then Demon in White will be at the end of the month. And in the middle is my next definite, and that is Midnight Tides by Steven Erikson. So Midnight Tides is the 5th book in the Malazan Book of the Fallen. I took a break from this series, actually at DNF this series briefly, and then I'm fully back and loving this series. In fact, Memories of Ice and House of Chains, which I read last year, are both going to be finalists for my Book of the Month when I do my Red Fury Book Awards later in January. But I'm really excited to pick up Midnight Tides. I know it's kind of a 3rd starting point within the series, but I'm so on board with this series right now. I'm really excited to read that and get on with the rest of Malazan. So that's another one. It's turning into kind of a monumental March. Hey, that's what I'll call it. Monumental March. Since I do have some big Tad Williams, big Steven Erikson, and big book by Christopher Ruocchio as well. 2 more in that definite category are my next 2 reads by Guy Gavriel Kay, All the Seas in the World and Children of Earth and Sky, which I hear are many ways kind of sequels to A Brightness Long Ago, which is another book that might be my book of the year. They're set in kind of the same portion of Kay's fictional universe. I'm really looking forward to these. Finishing Kay's works this year is a big priority for me. I really, really love this author. Look forward to reading these and the other 4 books I haven't read and his new one in May. But I'll be reading probably those books. I have them penciled in for January and February, 1 per month, and I look forward to just reading more of Guy Gavriel Kay, this fantasy author that I just adore. So the last one in the definite category is my current audiobook, and that is Proven Guilty by Jim Butcher. Audiobooks take me anywhere from 3 weeks to 8 weeks. I listen at 1.0. Sometimes I listen a lot during weeks, sometimes very little. But at some point in the first quarter, I will finish Proven Guilty, which is the 8th book in the Dresden Files series by Jim Butcher. I've read 4 of them with my eyes, and 3 of them I've listened to. So this will be my 4th audiobook listen in this series, and I really love the narrator's depiction of this world and Harry Dresden. He really brings him to life, adds a lot of humanity to the character, brings out the humor extremely well. And the 7th book, which was Deadbeat, was my favorite of the series so far. So I have been very, very excited to continue this series with a couple of months off. And I'm back reading Proven Guilty, and it's so far so good. I'm only a couple hours into it as I'm filming this, but I do look forward to finishing this sometime in the first quarter of 2025. All right, on to the 5 probablys. These books I'll probably read this quarter, but they're not 100% definite. but I'll probably get to these. The first one is Different Seasons by Stephen King. So this is a reread. This made my top 10 list of Stephen King works. I'm doing a Stephen King short fiction project, as I call it, and this will be the third one that I'm reading for that project. Most of you aren't watching, but I'm doing them anyway because I enjoy talking about these works of short fiction. Stephen King is a master of short fiction, and I don't think enough people talk about him. This is a series people do talk about quite a bit because the 4 novellas in here are very strong. They became some great adaptations, 2 of which are very, very famous, Shawshank Redemption, as well as Stand By Me, which was a novella called The Body. Anyway, I'm looking forward to doing this. I do read short story collections all year. I tend to have a short story collection going at all times where I'll read a short story or 2 between novels. With these being novellas, I don't know if I'll treat this the same way, if I'll read it continuously, or if I will interject these between other works. I'm not really sure, but I probably start this sometime in January. The current short story collection I'm reading, I'll be done with probably tonight, so I'll be able to pick this up in the new year and probably finish it in the first quarter. The next probably that I have penciled in on the schedule is Yumi and the Nightmare Painter by Brandon Sanderson. This is one of the secret projects. This is such a gorgeous edition. I do want to eventually get to, I dropped the bookmark, I do eventually want to get to Wind and Truth sometime next year when all the hype has died down. And I want to make sure I'm caught up on everything in the Cosmere first because I'm suspecting that he's going to tie a lot of these things together. So if there are even small references in the last 2 secret projects that I've not read yet, I do want to get to those before I read Wind and Truth. So I do hope to pick up Yumi and the Nightmare Painter probably in January. I think this will be a nice contrast to Tad Williams, just very different storytelling styles, and I do look forward to reading this gorgeous edition of Yumi and the Nightmare Painter. Also in the probably category is 2001: A Space Odyssey by Arthur C. Clarke. This will be a reread from a long time ago. In fact, I think I read this in 2001 because I think this is the edition that came out at that time. I want to read this because in the last 2 years I've read some Arthur C. Clarke. I read Childhood's End in 2023, and then I read Rendezvous with Rama in 2024. And I kind of want to experience kind of his big 3 most famous books around the same time to be able to compare and contrast, see the similarities, and then maybe see if I do want to explore this author more. Of the other 2 that I've read, I put Childhood's End ahead of Rendezvous with Rama as far as how much I enjoyed it. But I remember enjoying this tremendously, and I don't know how much of that had to do with the adaptation, which I enjoyed as well, but I do enjoy classic science fiction, and I do remember liking this book. But I look forward to reading this at some point in the first quarter of 2025 as well. Next up is a classic. I didn't read as many classics in 2024, and I want to remedy that because I still have a bunch of them on the list that I want to read. So I chose one by Jane Austen, and that's Emma. I remember seeing a video, I think it was Murphy Napier did a overview of Jane Austen's works, and I wrote down Emma as the next one I should try to see if I would like it. And I enjoyed Pride and Prejudice quite a bit. So that was the next one on my list, and then I had a gift card, and I saw this in the bookstore. I love these Penguin cloth-bound editions. I've been collecting them. You can see them up here above my left shoulder, and it just seemed the time to pick this one up since I did have a gift card, and I did want to read this book, and I love the edition. So plan on reading this probably February-ish would be my guess, but I do look forward to picking up another one by Jane Austen in this quarter. And the last one in the probably category is Disgrace by J.M. Coetzee. Now, I don't know if I said that last name correctly or not, but this is a book that I saw Jimmy Nuts just rave about last year or the year before, and I jotted it down. And I was really looking for some shorter works that I think I would love because of that monumental, is that what I called it? Marvelous. I think I called it monumental. That monumental march where I have those 3 big chunkers. I need some shorter fiction in there. So this one fits the bill. It's about 200 pages and by all accounts seems to be a really, really strong work. So I look forward to reading Disgrace probably in March. Okay, in my 5 in the maybe category, let's go with my next audiobook and my next short story collection, which I'll go to after the ones that I'm currently reading or currently about to start. The next short story collection is a classic, and it's The Turn of the Screw and Other Ghost Stories by Henry James. I've never read this author. I had thought about reading this perhaps during spooky season in October, and that just didn't happen. There's a Penguin cloth-bound edition that I plan on getting for this one. I asked for it for Christmas. We'll see if that turns up when I open presents, see what Santa brought me. But anyway, that is the next kind of classic and short story collection that I'll be reading after different seasons. Now, the next audiobook that I'll be reading at that time is going to be reading at that time. Do you call it reading or listening? I think it's listening. The next audiobook I'll be listening to is Against the Darkness by Kendari Blake. This is the third book in a trilogy that's set in the world of Buffy the Vampire Slayer. And I've really enjoyed the first two books. And this is probably the best way I could think of actually rebooting the series, if they ever want to do the series, because it's set in-world a couple decades after the series, so the characters that were in the regular series, the actors could play themselves and it would work. But anyway, I've enjoyed the trilogy. It's been fun just getting back into the Buffyverse, and I look forward to listening to Against All Darkness at some point, perhaps in the first quarter of the year. I also hope to get back to Tolkien, and I'm up to the 5th volume in A History of Middle-earth. It's called The Lost Road and Other Writings. This is J.R.R. Tolkien and Christopher Tolkien. We cannot discount the work that Christopher Tolkien did with his father's works to bring these to the world. But these are very historical. They're very much to the completionist in my heart. And I am enjoying them. They're sometimes very, very dry, but I do enjoy them and just see the vast amount of work that Tolkien put in to build Middle-earth as a world. So I look forward to hopefully squeezing in The Lost Road and Other Writings, and to finish this first of the 3 big omnibus editions that I have of the History of Middle-earth. So 2 more fantasy works that are literally just at the top of my spreadsheet of my TBR of works that I want to read. At the very top right now of my fantasy TBR is a work by Janie Wirtz called The Master of Whitestorm. This is one of her early works. I'm finishing her short story collection probably tonight. I've read the Empire trilogy. I read her debut novel. I'm looking forward to getting to this. Quick shout out to Christopher Navo, who sent me this from my Amazon wish list. Thank you, sir. I'm really excited to read this. I've really enjoyed this author, the works that I've read so far, and I'm kind of working my way slowly through her works chronologically, kind of. Anyway, this is the next one that I'll read by her, and I hope to get this in sometime in the first quarter of the year. And then the last one I really want to get in because the author's publicist sent it to me, and it's been like a year. But I want to read House of Open Wounds by Adrian Tchaikovsky. This is a sequel to City of Last Chances, which I really loved. I did a dual review of that book. I really loved the kind of Les Miserables vibes to it, and it was just a great read, and it was the first time I read this author. And I want to read this one. There's actually a third one out already. I mean, he writes faster than I can read, quite literally. But I do hope to read House of Open Wounds in the first quarter of the year. It's on the maybe list, so we'll see how things go. Anyway, that's my TBR for the first quarter of the year, the things I plan to read, the things I hope to read. I'd love to hear about any of these books. If you've read any of these, please talk with me in the comments below. Spoiler free, of course, since I haven't read them. Then I'd also love to hear what you're most excited to read the first quarter of the year. I don't do monthly TBRs, so if you have anything planned in the first quarter of the year, I'd love to hear about it. I always love finding out what you are reading. If you like this video, please like and subscribe. You can also find me on Twitter, Goodreads, and the Fireside Discord. I'd love to interact with you there. As always, thank you for watching. Till next time, goodbye.